The United States will open its embassy in Jerusalem today. Last year, US President Donald Trump had announced the decision to move the embassy from Tel Aviv, a move that has received a lot of criticism. Trump's daughter Ivanka Trump and son-in-law Jared Kushner will attend the opening ceremony. US officials say that this will create greater regional stability, but several experts and other players in the region question these claims. Critics say that this will create more instability and the United States will lose its position as an honest broker in the Israeli-Palestinian negotiations. Violent protests broke out in Gaza before the new US embassy is open. At least 28 Palestinians have been killed and around 500 were hurt after Israeli troops opened fire on the protesters. This is being seen as one of the bloodiest clashes in weeks. Palestine says that Israel is committing a terrible massacre in the Gaza Strip. The protests intensified on the Israel's 70th anniversary last month. Back then, mosques in Gaza had urged the Palestinians to join the Great March of Return. Since then, the skies over the border have been filled with black smoke after protesters began burning tires. More than 60 Palestinians have died since the protests broke out, but no Israeli casualties have been reported so far. So these are the latest visuals which are coming in from Gaza. The protests have rocked Israel, and these protests continue to take place on the border. It is claimed that more than a dozen people have been killed in firing and 500 odd civilians have been injured. And the fact that decision to move the embassy has been executed. Now I'm joined by my colleague Daniele Pagani from Jerusalem. Daniele, tell us what's the situation where the violence has taken place.
The situation regarding the rallies, which I would like to repeat are the deadliest since the beginning of the Palestinian protest at the Gaza border. The situation is very severe. It is an ongoing and developing situation. We are given to understand that there may be between 28 to 37 Palestinians killed, and they are part of the protest, of the massive rally and protest. We're trying to, so to say, break into Israel from the Eretz checkpoint on the border between the Gaza Strip and Israel. They will not stop. Hamas very clearly said they would have not accepted without fighting the move of relocating the United States Embassy from the coastal town, which is as of now the internationally recognized capital city of Israel, Tel Aviv, to the wholly contested city of Jerusalem. We do expect things to turn ugly. It is a matter of hours that things could turn ugly even here in Jerusalem. Throughout the day there have been sporadic clashes, mostly in the northern part of the city. It was possible to hear Palestinians and the security forces of Israel battling, and columns and smoke were seen from the northern neighborhood of Jerusalem. The evening prayer will determine perhaps what will be the I would say most dangerous moment throughout this historic day.
For the benefit of our general viewers, why is this shift of embassy so significant, and why is this shift leading to so much violence?
It could seem to the many of us that moving an embassy and a consulate is just a matter of moving a building, but no. Remember, it was 1995 when the United States Congress voted to move the embassy from a city which is internationally recognized as the capital city of Israel, which is Tel Aviv, to a city which is not internationally recognized as the capital city of Israel. But it's not only that. Jerusalem is a contested city, it's divided. There is a green line running across the city. It divides what is renownedly called as the occupied side of Jerusalem. Israeli forces occupied it in 1967 after the war, and Palestinians do not accept the fact that For Israel, this is their unilateral capital city. So you understand how a country as heavy, as big, as present in West Asia as the United States of America deciding to put the embassy, which is not the consulate but the embassy. Embassies are present only in capital cities. Decide to move the embassy here means symbolically that the United States are recognizing de facto Jerusalem as the only capital of Israel. Of course, Palestinians do not agree.
11 people have been killed and several injured in India's eastern state, West Bengal, after clashes during local body elections. The clashes were reported in South 24 Pargana, West Midnapur and Cooch Behar districts. There were also reports of ballot boxes being set on fire, vehicles burnt and poll officials attacked. Thousands of police and security personnel have been deployed to tighten security. On your screens there you can see the pictures from West Bengal's Asansol, where political workers are using batons to thrash each other. Reports are also emerging of a minister of West Bengal, CM Mamata Banerjee's government attacking a worker of the Bharatiya Janata Party.
I already said this was absolutely expected, and we are going to see even more, violent behavior from the ruling Trinamool Congress party during the votes today, and that's exactly what we are seeing. Even in the areas which are a little bit accessible by the media, you are seeing this kind of violence. A Trinamool Congress minister beating up BJP Karyakartas. 4 people have already lost their lives. Ballot papers being burnt, water being thrown. Openly, Trinamool cadres moving around with arms, and police is just standing there. I think and where is the Chief Minister? I want to see the Chief Minister. She has acted like a Trinamool Netri, nothing like a... Is she still honing her prime ministerial skills? Is she doing that? Is she somewhere else talking about her prime ministerial ambitions while her state is burning?
And I'm joined by my colleague Pooja Mehta from Kolkata. Pooja, tell me, why did violence took place in so many districts? And this is despite the fact that Mamata Banerjee herself has been the victim of the left violence when she was opposing them 10 years back.
Well, Karthik, if you talk about violence during polls, Bengal has a culture of violence and very violent clashes breaking out during elections. So this particular rural body polls are no exception, and the violence began right from the filing of nomination papers. And today, as the polling began at 7 a.m. in the morning, violent clashes were reported from South 24 Parganas. Eventually, it spread to North 24 Parganas, East Midnapur, Bardwan and several other districts. As far as the violence is concerned, you can see in the visuals that in and around these polling booths and stations where section 144 is imposed around 100 meters of the polling booth, you can see political parties and groups clashing with each other, sometimes even attacking the police. So there is absolutely no intervention by the police. The poll personnel had to flee from several polling stations because they had to run for their lives. In fact, in our visuals, we're showing how ballot boxes were snatched away from the polling personnel and the ballot papers were torched. So comparatively, this election has been even gorier compared to other previous elections. But as far as the violence, you asked me that question, that why did this violence break out? It is not just one party that Trinamool Congress is engaging into violence. Even in several places, opposition parties have clashed with the ruling party. Close to 3 or 4 TMC supporters have been killed. So among all these 11 people, there are 2 voters who were killed, 2-3 people were locals, and their political identity is yet to be ascertained. But there is a BJP worker who was killed, there is a CPIM worker who was killed, and 3 other Trinamool Congress workers who were also killed. And right now we have reports that because it's already 5 p.m. and the polling has ended, but in several polling booths where people could not cast their vote, there are huge lines. So they are going to cast their vote because they had reached the polling premises before 5 p.m. and they'll be allowed to cast their vote. Karthike?
Thank you. Thank you, Pooja, for this update. Hundreds of people rallied in Moscow to demand the unblocking of the Telegram application. It is the second protest in the Russian capital since the authorities blocked the popular messaging service last month. Demonstrators chanted anti-government slogans and brandished signs carrying messages against internet censorship. Some tossed papers, planes in the air, symbolizing Telegram's logo. Telegram was blocked on April 16 this year on orders from state communications watchdog Roskomnadzor after refusing to grant Russian state security access to its users' encrypted messages. Some 20 people were detained at their rally. And let us go across to Jessica King, correspondent from Moscow, on this issue. Jessica, what actually prompted the government? Is this the only reason, or the issue is that was it being misused by certain groups?
Well, certainly for the groups who were demonstrating on Saturday, the second protest, they would argue that it's not over misuse of the app. This is just a question of internet freedom and freedom of their privacy. This is a very popular messaging app here in Russia, and people were saying that, you know, the internet can't be taken away from them. These kind of apps are used all over the world. Why should they be closed down by the government? The government's response really is that they say that they need to have access to these messages to guard against security threats such as terrorist attacks. They want to know what these encrypted messages are saying in case it's something they need to be aware of. But of course, users would disagree with that, and the Telegram has said that compliance with the order would constitute a violation of users' privacy. So certainly, definitely differences of opinion on why this app why the government is trying to shut this app down.
But then why is government now trying to shut it down? And at a point of time when it's so unpopular a decision?
Well, it's difficult to say, really. I mean, this, as you've seen, hundreds of people have taken to the streets again, calling on this app not to be shut down. It's extremely popular, and people are questioning why now? Why do they feel that there is a threat? We haven't heard any more really from the government since the protests here on Saturday. We know that 20 people were detained, even though this was a largely peaceful rally. But they say that, you know, again, using encrypted messages is something that they are wary of, and they want to be across what's being said in case there are any terrorist threats. Perhaps this is particularly in the run-up to the World Cup, when all eyes will be on Russia in terms of security. That could be a reason why they're trying to crack down on it, but really they just say that they want to keep across any security threats such as terrorist attacks, and that is why they are trying to shut down this particular app.
Thank you for this update. So Jessica telling us as to why this decision is being taken and how unpopular it has become now.